The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome. This is Thiago Rodriguez from the WBI. We'll be starting in a couple minutes. Hello everyone and welcome to this WBA webinar. Let's give another one more minute and then we'll start. Welcome everyone. Okay, so once more, welcome everyone to this WBI webinar. We have a quite interesting agenda for today. So the name of the webinar is the Non-Stop Innovation in the Wi-Fi Industry, and you can see on the screen the agenda. I plan just to do a quick introduction on the Wireless Broadband Alliance, and just for practical reasons, I'm the WBA CEO. I'm Thiago. So I will make that introduction to the alliance. Then I will invite Adlan Fela, so the senior wireless analyst and marketeer at Maravidis. So Adlan has been working with the alliance for quite some time. He has a quite comprehensive background in the telecoms industry. Uh, he realized and he developed a comprehensive set of research across different verticals. And it's a pleasure to have Arlan here today sharing with you the work and the research that he did for the WBI, in particular sharing with you some of the latest trends and some of the strategic direction of the Wi-Fi industry and the wireless industry in general. I plan as well to finish the webinar just by sharing with all of you the roadmap of the projects of the Alliance. And of course, I will make a call for action that any of you that may be interested in any of the projects of the Alliance, you may consider to join. If you are not a member yet, you should consider to join and being active on this wonderful industry. So, what is WBI and exactly what we do in the industry? So we have been sharing this vision that we want to develop a seamless and interoperable Wi-Fi services experience. So we want to accelerate and improve the quality of any type of services that runs over our Wi-Fi network. And to do that, basically, we enable the collaboration among service providers, carriers, technology companies, all types of organizations to come together and develop a set of projects and programs either to address business issues or even to explore new business opportunities. You can see the membership of WBI. We have a vast membership with
Tiago, sorry to interrupt you, but we're seeing a slide that says thank you. Not seeing the slides you're commenting. There you go. There you go. Okay, now it is.
Okay, perfect. So some problem we had, but okay, thank you for that, Adlan. Okay, so as I was saying, on the membership, we have a quite vast membership and with very diverse ecosystem players. So we have some of the large mobile operators, so companies like AT&T or Orange or Deutsche Telekom. Then we have many of the large cable operators like Comcast, Charter Spectrum, among others, and then some ISPs and pure Wi-Fi players. And then we have a robust set of players and technology providers, companies like Nokia, Facebook, Cisco, HP, Aruba, among others. So all these companies, so they joined forces and they developed the work in the alliance. Important as well to highlight and share with all of you that WBI, we don't work in silos. We have a long time partnerships with multiple other industry bodies, organizations like GSMA or Wi-Fi Alliance or 3GPP, or even by verticals with leading cities or organizations like HTNG for the hospitality, UCLG for once more the cities, or even LoRa Alliance for the IoT vertical. So we make an effort to join forces and collaborate with the other industry bodies, because we have the vision that all these wireless technologies, they don't live in silos. When we go to the real world environment, normally all these technologies, they coexist. So it's important that that coexistence comes up as well on our technical programs and activities. Just a quick highlight, what I believe is nothing new to any of us. Wi-Fi, it's a major success worldwide. Recently, I saw on the news from a UK media that in fact Wi-Fi was the biggest innovation for the last 25 years of history. So definitely a big success. I will not go through every single detail on this slide, but definitely 9 million devices available today is a gigantic number. Take in consideration that Wi-Fi today they carries 60% of the wireless data globally. And if you look even indoor, that number even go higher. So 80% of all data that is consumed indoor is go through a Wi-Fi network. So definitely Wi-Fi is a significant success, and it is planning to continue to be. So the numbers are the estimations that we are getting from the industry. By 2021, we'll have over 500 million hotspots globally. So it's a gigantic number in terms of networks available. And as Adlan is going to share with all of you, based on our research, the confidence in investing in Wi-Fi is growing. So with the trends on this industry moving forward, this confidence is somehow it's growing, and that's a very good sign for the industry. So this webinar today will anchor on a piece of research that the WBI we produce on an annual basis. It's called our industry report. In this case, is the industry report 2020. I will not go in much details because Arlan will cover that, but it's just important to share with you among this webinar that will cover many of the trends on the industry, some of market segment priorities, what are some of the business models behind it, how to monetize Wi-Fi, and look into as well what are the regulatory topics coming up, and what are some of the critical Wi-Fi enablers that Tadlan find out with this research. On the third part of this webinar, I will do a more deep dive on the projects of WBI, and you can see as well some of the priorities of the organization. But for now, I'd like to hand over to Adlan and invite Adlan to share his thoughts and the findings that we got on this industry report. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And over to you, Adlan.
Thank you, Thiago, and hello, everyone. Morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending when you are. So my name is Adlan Fela. I'm a senior analyst with Maravedis. For those that are not familiar with Maravedis, we are a boutique wireless infrastructure analyst firm since 2002. That's quite a long time already. And it's really my pleasure here to be presenting for the next 25 minutes. There's a lot of content, and I'll try to squeeze that within 20 to 25 minutes because we understand your time is valuable, and we leave enough time for the rest of the program. And so my intent is to highlight some of the key findings of the annual industry report commissioned by the WBA, and which includes some results of an extensive survey. So the report, and I'm hoping everyone can see my screen in full mode, is available on the link here. For those who haven't downloaded the report yet, it's available for free in the link here. I believe you need to register to get access to that document. The agenda for me today is really threefold. First, as Thiago indicated, be providing some highlights of the key Wi-Fi market segments that are really taking advantage and benefit of the use of Wi-Fi technologies from different angles and perspectives. The second aspect is really talking about the progress, considerable progress that Wi-Fi 6 enables, and amounts to almost a revolution in terms of the capabilities of Wi-Fi, equivalent to what 5G is hoping to deliver. And then, of course, we'll address some of the Wi-Fi enablers that includes, of course, spectrum and some of the innovation that's going on with Wi-Fi, including machine learning and artificial intelligence. as well as very important trends such as open source, which is accelerating itself the innovation around Wi-Fi. A few words about the survey. So the survey ran this summer for 3 months. We were able to collect 248 responses, and very important mix of both service providers and vendors alike from different regions of the world. And so even though response levels were quite dominated by North America and Europe with 75%, we still had the opportunity to learn from perspectives of other regions. Equally important was the fact that we were able to collect the input from both technical and business/marketing sales, each with their own perspectives and opinions, which provides quite a balanced load of information that we were able to extract and exploit for the purpose of the report. So the 4 key market segments and business model we'll be addressing today include the carriers, which have their own incentives and business purposes for using Wi-Fi. The enterprise Wi-Fi, which has been very successful for many years, and some of the new innovation that is taking place, especially around industrial Wi-Fi. Home Wi-Fi, of course, is where Wi-Fi is really king in the home, so to speak, and finally smart cities. So starting with carrier Wi-Fi, the first use case that's been traditionally addressed by Wi-Fi is this Wi-Fi roaming. In the past few years, we have seen a massive expansion of public Wi-Fi around the world. The technology platform has been evolving rapidly. NGH stands for Next Generation Hotspots, and Passpoint really enables customers to connect seamlessly and securely to Wi-Fi, and that's pretty big improvement from past Wi-Fi experience. So the adoption of next generation hotspots is itself accelerating roaming usage, and as an important effective way to address coverage and capacity. So this is especially the case given a lot of devices are now Passpoint Release 2 certified and available both in Android and iPhones. So that virtuous circle leads more venues to adopt Passpoint and NGH. We have a detailed case study in the report for AT&T, where we look at the different ways in which Wi-Fi is really used as a complement to cellular. And in what way? 3 ways really. First is access to Wi-Fi hotspots can be included to make an overall cellular offer more attractive. The second way is Wi-Fi can be included on higher end cellular plans to make those plans more attractive. And finally, Wi-Fi can be included to lower the overall wholesale cost structure. So this has been very successfully implemented by AT&T for a number of years, and they're very excited about the results, both from a revenue perspective, as well as the quality of experience they're getting from that. We also detail in the report, and that will be discussed further, the notion of roaming federation that the WBA is championing. Essentially, where both carriers and non-carriers manage Wi-Fi from hotels, cities, and public venues would be able to join a federation without having to worry about all of the technical hurdles and work for roaming, and only deal with commercial aspects. And this is very exciting development, given that in the past, Wi-Fi hotspots were really isolated islands of connectivity. Moving on to the survey itself that I mentioned earlier, the confidence in investing in NGH passpoint technologies is evidenced by the results from the survey. But the level of confidence has risen sharply since the last year's survey, with 79% of respondents saying that they had the same or more confidence than a year ago for the reasons we saw previously. So NGH is happening now with already 13% of respondents already deploying it. And we're optimistic about the wave of deployments of NGH continuing, as 28% of respondents plan to deploy NGH Passport in 2020 alone. So, this technology has had some hurdles and delays in the past, but it's finally happening on the field. Moving on to some of the additional questions we asked in the survey, the top drivers for investing in NGH Passport were led first by the willingness to provide seamless access between cellular and Wi-Fi networks, something very important to ensure a smooth quality of experience continuity for customers. As indicated in the graph, this is followed by the ability to deliver a seamless and secure Wi-Fi access itself. We all know how difficult or poor the experience of connecting to Wi-Fi hotspots has been in the past. This is definitely changing. And then finally, motivation is for seamless roaming between different networks, as in the case with deployments such as AT&T. So in other words, really what operators are investing in is an always best connected experience with expectations that this will reduce churn. The second aspect of carrier Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi offloading. As with Wi-Fi roaming, the adoption of Passport and NGH is also driving the use of Wi-Fi for cellular offloading. This is not a new trend, but it's really boosted by the progress and quality of experience offered by Wi-Fi. We expect that trend will only accelerate with the introduction of Wi-Fi 6, especially in public locations. This explains why leading operators such as SKT from Korea are more confident about using Wi-Fi both indoor and outdoors. So offloading saves costs and improves quality of experience. It also improves the ability for the operators to actually manage their networks with lower cost. But this is kind of the learnings from the case study we had presented in the report with SKT, can only work if proper RF design and implementation are done to ensure that enough capacity is planned and that interference is well managed, especially in dense and challenging environments such as stadiums, malls, or subway stations. Some of the results from SKT deployments include 30% of the subway traffic is offloaded to Wi-Fi. Moving on to our second market segment, the enterprise. We all know that Wi-Fi in the enterprise is mission critical in many sectors for both employees and customers. In the report, we produce a series of case studies for very distinct enterprise environments, from hotels with the Hilton case study, in-flight Wi-Fi, hospitals with the Henry Ford Health System, and industrial with the Metis. We also discussed the role of Wi-Fi for the connected vehicle. I'll spend a few minutes here on the Metis case study because it's worth looking at it more closely. Metis Aerospace is a designer and manufacturer of precision-forged, machined, and sub-assembled components, primarily for the aerospace and defense industry. So as you can imagine, this is a challenging environment with furnaces, presses, and heat, and a lot of moving heavy machinery and the presence of dust and air particulates. Last week, the WBA announced the successful completion of its phase 1 trial of Wi-Fi 6 infrastructure and services at the Metis Aerospace factory. The tests included applications of 4K video streaming, large-scale files transfers, messaging and voice/video communications, as well as the first stage of IoT sensor and mixed reality testing. What's interesting is that previous implementation tests with Wi-Fi failed to work in this challenging factory environment. But with Wi-Fi 6, speeds of 700 megabytes per second using 80 megahertz channels were achieved, and very low latency applications like video calling and video streaming with latencies below 6 milliseconds. So those results are exciting and improve that Wi-Fi 6 infrastructure can operate well in the presence of interference and noise in complex and challenging factory environments. You can find more details about Métis in the report. Going back to the survey, one question always comes back and never goes away. How do you monetize Wi-Fi? From the survey, within all of the important monetization strategy, there are many approaches which the respondents plan to adopt. The most commonly cited in current networks are location-based services, which include proximity marketing, asset tracking, indoor navigation, location-based security, or Wi-Fi first, which is a form of smart offloading as implemented by Google, for example, and all the above. We believe there's no silver bullet in monetizing Wi-Fi. It's really a combination of different benefits provided through the use of Wi-Fi that will generate an acceptable return on investment. Generally speaking, the mood is that respondents are more excited about generating revenues than reducing costs. In terms of the top 3 future applications, most likely to drive revenue 3 years from now, we had IoT and new vertical applications come to mind. Usually those are services tailored to specific needs for example, for a vertical such as a hotel. By providing a solution that will improve guest experience from check-in and throughout their stay, or empowering staff to better do their job. So one side is the customer experience, but the other side is pretty important is improving the productivity and quality of work for their staff. Other innovations that are very interesting that are following include Wi-Fi sensing, which enables elderly care, or people counting and security applications. So there's a lot of innovation out there, and probably a lot of applications we don't know about yet that would be enabled by the quality of performance of this next generation Wi-Fi. Last but not least, market segment, a third market segment here is the smart city. For many cities around the globe, Wi-Fi is a natural choice to start delivering internet access to unconnected citizens, whether they're tourists or just people with low income. Wi-Fi is often the technology that is used to underpin the initial use cases and deployments in smart city projects. We include a case study for Hong Kong in the report, and it's an interesting one because the use cases for cities are many and varied, regardless of whether or not they include Wi-Fi. Some examples of use cases include smart traffic management, smart lamp posts, smart trash collection, environment sensing, and the list goes on. And it's pretty much infinite. There are as many problems to solve in dense urban areas as there are use cases. And so smart cities are a really good example of how RAN convergence can drive value in a complex multi-radio access technology environment mix, a mix of short range, medium range, long range, licensed, and unlicensed technologies. Low power wide area network connections are a particularly interesting example of the need for multiple technologies for the IoT, potentially with Wi-Fi. In fact, Wi-Fi and LoRaWAN are 2 of the most adopted and licensed technologies, and together they address a large proportion of the IoT use cases. Moving on now to the last segment, as indicated earlier, Wi-Fi is king in the home. Today, consumers experience their broadband mostly through Wi-Fi, and home devices are from smart TVs to game consoles and thermostats are all connected mostly through Wi-Fi. And the number of connected devices is only growing. We expect 15 devices by 2021. In the minds of consumers, Wi-Fi equals broadband, and service providers are pressured to take responsibility for the in-home Wi-Fi experience through a managed and secure way. The lack of Wi-Fi performance will result in service calls and expensive truck rolls, higher churn, and lower net promoting score. Another important factor is that bandwidth is not enough anymore. Lower latency and stability are becoming key parts of the operative experience. So poor performance of Wi-Fi can come at the will bring cost for the operator, and it can come from various sources, from neighbor interference, congestion, poor coverage, bad configuration. You have it. As a result, and in response, there's a lot of innovation and standards being worked out to resolve these issues. Those include multiple access points, roaming and interoperability with the Wi-Fi Alliance Easy Mesh. I have indicated earlier the emergence of open source codes increasingly being used to accelerate R&D, and we have Purple Mesh working on that. And of course, the use of machine learning and AI to make the best use of all of the data points that are being collected throughout the systems, from access points and controllers, all resulting in a better managed Wi-Fi system. And of course, IoT and security are also part of the equation, as all of the devices are very vulnerable, and operators are keen to addressing that problem. We have a case study for Comcast in the report, which provides more details about how operators are leveraging and monetizing the current home Wi-Fi innovations. So moving on to the second part of this presentation, the introduction of Wi-Fi 6 represents a revolution for Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi 6 has true 5G capabilities, including the support for multi-gigabit speeds, massive device density, and very low latency. Some of the important aspects and development that are going on include the fact that, and the question of the role of Wi-Fi into the 5G mix is, we believe that the coexistence between the different radios, spectrum bands, and deployment models will be essential to deliver the full potential of wireless connectivity in the 5G era. 5G alone will not be able to address all of the use cases. And in fact, Wi-Fi is still dominant indoors. We believe Wi-Fi will be a core component of 5G communication technologies. And so the question then becomes, the Wi-Fi and cellular 5G interworking. The operators need to gain visibility into and control of what's happening in the Wi-Fi radio access technology, especially in the enterprise and public Wi-Fi areas. WBA, joined by the NGMN, are working jointly to resolve the following issues. First, enabling Wi-Fi only devices to connect to the 5G core. Second, further progress to ensure tight integration between 5G and Wi-Fi networks. A third, an interface to enable a certain level of network manageability and policy control between 5G core and Wi-Fi networks. And 5, the ability for a client to route traffic over one or more access types in an intelligent way, making optimal use of the available connectivity. The third point that's being addressed also is the role of Wi-Fi in the IoT space. We believe Wi-Fi will play a role in most IoT environments, alone or interworking with more specialized protocols, or with cellular. Low power, wide area networks are operating at scale in a licensed spectrum. I mentioned Wi-Fi and LoRaWAN are the two most adopted and licensed technologies today. And finally, going back to the Wi-Fi roaming revolution, So I mentioned there are millions of public and semi-public hotspots in the world, from stadiums to retail stores. Unfortunately, they are in most cases like distinct islands with no connection to each other. And so the WBA is championing the concept of a roaming federation to unite those hotspots with an NGH to resolve all of the remaining frictions. I'm sure Thiago will provide more details about that initiative. An important question going back to the survey is that we ask is, what role do you see in the 5G era? As you can see here, different connectivity technologies will have different key roles in 5G era. The figure shows where respondents think Wi-Fi would be the most important. Indoor data coverage for enterprises, often an area where cellular has been weak, was seen as a key Wi-Fi role by 53%, and in-home broadband by 48%, with 43% think Wi-Fi will support all 5 of the main roles identified. Going on with the survey, we asked, what do you think are the current challenges for WAN convergence? The broad role for Wi-Fi in the multi-network 5G landscape will really depend on improved convergence and coexistence, something that's being heavily driven by the WPA and its alliances with other groups. The work is looking to address some important challenges, and the survey identified the top 3. Wi-Fi only devices cannot today connect to the 5G core. Lack of interface to enable a certain level of network manageability and policy control between 5G core and Wi-Fi. And then finally, no mechanism for a client to route traffic over one or more access types in an intelligent way. And a large portion of the respondents also indicated that all of the above issues that need to be resolved so that Wi-Fi becomes seamlessly integrated into 5G core and 5G networks in general. So a lot of exciting stuff will be happening in the next year or so. Moving on to my final part of the presentation here, and it's about Wi-Fi enablers. So the development of Wi-Fi is really driven by progress indicated earlier in areas of machine learning and AI, as well as new applications for RF signals such as Wi-Fi sensing. But an important aspect is the increased use of open source code to accelerate development and collaboration among vendors, including Purple Mesh to support Wi-Fi Alliance, Easy Mesh, so vendors can focus on areas of differentiation rather than investing and replicating the same basic functions. But a key enabler for Wi-Fi in next year is going to be actually spectrum. More spectrum means more capacity and performance. And so spectrum trends are really key enablers for Wi-Fi. In October of 2018, the FCC proposed to make up to 1,200 megahertz of spectrum available for use of by unlicensed devices in the 6 gigahertz, that's 5.9 to 7.1. The proposed rules are designed to allow unlicensed devices such as Wi-Fi to operate in the 6 gigahertz band without interfering with the operation of the licensed services which will continue to use the spectrum. So the opening up of the 6 gigahertz will be very important for the acceleration of the adoption of Wi-Fi. Of course, and that in combination with the emergence of Wi-Fi 6 as a technology will be really accelerating the adoption of Wi-Fi in all of the key market segments I have mentioned earlier. Internationally, regarding 6 gigahertz, there's no consensus to commit to unlicensed use, but the momentum is growing, including in the European Union. On the 3GPP side, work is underway on Release 16, including standards for use of unlicensed spectrum for 5G networks. So the work item includes support for license-assisted access, NRU, basically using anchor channels in LTE or 5G NR, and for standalone NRU with no LTE anchor. So that means that essentially 5G networks will also be able to operate in the 5 to 6 gigahertz spectrum. It will be interesting to see how that unfolds in the next few years in relationship to Wi-Fi. Other interesting spectrum developments is, of course, the use of dynamic spectrum approaches, such as CBRS and television white spaces. And that's become an alternative to a spectrum or assigned versus totally unlicensed. So we're also following up very closely the use of CBRS in the US. We have produced actually a separate report on indoor use of CBRS, but we believe the initial use cases would be mostly outdoors to take advantage of the additional free spectrum for both mobile operators and MVNOs. An interesting spectrum development also includes the fact that there's new spectrum for industrial use, as it is the case in Germany. In Germany, the regulator is allocating some 3.7 gigahertz spectrum for the country's powerful manufacturing and automotive sectors in order to support Industry 4.0 services. Other countries like UK are still considering similar moves in future auctions, but they are not there yet. In the US, still relying on shared spectrum to fulfill the requirements of enterprise and IoT 5G. And in other countries like France, they're not there yet, acknowledging the need for private networks yet. So different situations in different countries there. So wrapping up my presentation, 2020 will be a landmark year as the next generation Wi-Fi platforms drive a whole new generation of use cases and revenues. The acceleration of next generation hotspots and the introduction of Wi-Fi 6 and the new spectrum in 6 gigahertz band, this will result in higher confidence in investing in next generation Wi-Fi. The WBA built on core activities in roaming and security with the achievements such as RICS, the Wireless Roaming Intermediary Exchange Standards. We believe the launch of the Roaming Federation in Q1 2020 will be an interesting development to watch and see how public venues would respond to that, as well as service providers, and how would that affect in turn additional adoption of Passport and NGH. The question of the role of Wi-Fi in the 5G era is an ongoing source of debate in the industry, but we can expect progress on pending issues on interworking and future roadmap. So we believe all these trends represent a whole new set of business opportunities for Wi-Fi, from managed Wi-Fi in the home, in the business, to Wi-Fi roaming and offloading, to using Wi-Fi in Industrial 4.0, to in-flight and connected vehicles. So I invite you to, again, download and read the report, and be happy to hear your comments and feedback on this annual research. That concludes my presentation, Thiago. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adlan. That was fantastic. Before I jump into the last part of the presentation with my slides, maybe is worthwhile just to share with you two things. So first of all, if you have any questions, please share on the question box. I saw that some of you already put in some questions, so we'll try to have some time for questions at the end of the webinar. And the other one is all these materials we are going to share with you. So all these slides, we'll send it by email so you can revise it and keep it. And as Adlan said, I invite you as well to download the industry report. Okay, so what I want to share with you is, just to finish the webinar, is the work of the Alliance. So WBA is a completely members-driven organization. We run a set of projects in the different work groups that are proposed by the membership. You can see that we have 5 work groups, so the next gen, the 5G, the IoT, the roaming, and the testing and interoperability. Within all these projects, you can see the top priorities in blue the Wi-Fi 6, the run.
Tiago, again, we're still seeing a slide that says WBA roadmap of project.
Yeah, it should.
There you go. Okay, now yes.
So looks like I have some issue with my PowerPoint. But okay, if you can see the screen, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, as I said, so in blue you can see the top tier most priority programs, and then in green topics like in-flight Wi-Fi connectivity, in-home Wi-Fi, connected vehicles. So our Wi-Fi can complement and help the development of the connected vehicle. Then we have a set of deployments of Wi-Fi, what we call NGH Live, that we deploy Passpoint technology and Wi-Fi in very large events like Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, among others. And then as well, we have a project in terms of how the captive portal for Wi-Fi is evolving and how we see the role of the captive portals in the future. Then in gray, we have several other projects that I will not get in the details today, but if you are interested in any of these topics, feel free to drop me a message and I will be more than happy to share more details. What I want to do is really just to give you a quick snapshot on our priorities. So as I said, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi roaming, and the run conversions. On the Wi-Fi 6, as Arlan shared with you, we have been developing a series of real-life trials where we partner either with enterprises, either with universities, either with cities or even other organizations to develop this testing and make sure that the ecosystem is ready to embrace Wi-Fi 6 and the devices, the equipment for the infrastructure, the type of applications are ready for the Wi-Fi 6. So Arlen talked about the Metis Aerospace case, but other examples are the education campus with the Mondragon University in Spain, or the residential Wi-Fi for Wi-Fi 6 with Cable Labs in US, and other trials that are going to be announced pretty soon is the transportation hub and the stadiums or sports arenas is other verticals. Besides the Wi-Fi 6, other big topic for the Alliance in 2020 is going to be the Wi-Fi roaming and the roaming federations. We'll be looking to these global federations to interconnect and all these millions of hotspots that exist today. And we really want to simplify the way that hotspots and Wi-Fi networks can do roaming between themselves. Because today we have thousands and millions of hotspots available that all of us use, either in restaurants, coffee shops, airports, you name it. Why not being able to provide a much more easy experience by automatic login on those venues and somehow facilitate the connection of all of us as end users using those hotspots. The concept of federation, it anchors on the development of a series of technologies that needs to be embraced by the members of the federation. So this includes specific consortium codes, the specific identification of the networks, and as well the RADSEC technology to have an easy interconnection between the networks so that the networks can talk to each other in a very easy and functional way. And at the same time, develop easy provisioning of the credentials. So regardless of the hotspot or the network that provides me a credential, it can be an operator, but can be as well a city, or can be an hospital, or can be an university that gives me a specific ID, one identity, and I should be able to use that identity in all the federation locations. So stay tuned and we'll see quite some interesting news on this front. The last priority is what Adlan talked about, the 5G convergence with Wi-Fi. And particular for WPI, we have been advocating that Wi-Fi is, in particular Wi-Fi 6 and 5G, they should be seen as best friends. And what this graphic is representing representing the different requirements that were set up for the 5G, and it maps the performance of the 5G NR network and the Wi-Fi 6. And the takeaways from this comparison is that in some type of capabilities, Wi-Fi performs better. In others, 5G performs better. And the conclusion that we take and we share with the industry is that depending on the requirements, we can use one technology or the other, and we should not look to them as one is replacing the other, but by the opposite. We should try to combine both technologies. And I always give this example. So no one is going to put Wi-Fi on the motorway. And normally for indoor coverage, Wi-Fi it's much more capable and brings a much bigger cost benefit comparing with, for example, a 5G indoor coverage that has other types of investments comparing with Wi-Fi. So if you like these initiatives and these type of programs, please get involved. That's my call for action. Consider to be part of the Alliance if you are not yet. And definitely we would like to help you to grow your business and to grow this industry as a whole. As a final recommendation, if you'd like to get involved with us and know and meet us and know who is behind WBI, I'm sharing the roadmap of events for 2020. So our next event is going to be in Singapore in the early of the year, in February. So if you are around, please consider to join us for that event. In fact, it's free. So you can just register, go online and register for the event. And then we are planning to have what we call our Wireless Global Congress in June in US, in Chicago, in co-location with Wi-Fi Alliance, members meetings. And then in the fall, we are going to have our Congress in Barcelona in co-location with the IoT Solutions World Congress. So it's another opportunity as well to get involved with the Alliance. I just want to leave a final message. I like a lot this quote from Charles Darwin, and I think it's very applicable to the wireless industry today. So he's not really the strongest of the species that survives, but neither the most intelligent, but is the one that is more capable to adapt along the way to all the changes that are occurring. And today, on this very dynamic wireless industry, we see a lot of changes and a lot of opportunities, and I'm pretty sure that many of your companies will adapt to this new set of opportunities. We are right already over time. Maybe it's just time for one question. So I will pick up one question just to share with all of you that we take questions. And the ones that we cannot answer here on the webinar, we'll answer by email. So Adlan, I think we have one question that came up when you were presenting that is about how do we explain that Wi-Fi analytics is seen less of a monetization vehicle in the future compared with today?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. My feeling is that Wi-Fi analytics in itself is an enabler for other activities such as marketing, hyper-localized, hyper-contextual marketing activities, as well as improving the performance of the network itself. So usually the data is used either to better serve customers and learn more about them, and then sell to them through better, more precise advertising and marketing services, and or the data is used to improve performance in the network. And I think that those business models are evolving, but essentially data is kind of the gasoline to enable other activities, and I think its importance will increase over time.
Yeah, thank you, Adlan. So we are right on the hour. So I just want to thank you, Adlan, for your presentation.
My pleasure.
A pleasure to work with you. And thank you everyone that attended the webinar. Looking forward to see you soon. And please consider to be involved in the Alliance, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.